In the tranquil depths of the ocean lived the Sea King and his 3 daughters. The eldest, Aquila, was beautiful, generous, and steady. The second, Melusine, was knowledgeable, gentle, and shy, while the youngest, Audina, was a mischievous little trickster. The Sea King often felt troubled by this youngest daughter, but what worried him more was that the little mermaid had grown weary of life under the sea. She often swam to the shore to peek at the world beyond, fascinated by all the strange and wonderful things she saw. One day a prince came alone to the seaside to swim, but was suddenly caught in an undercurrent. No matter how hard he struggled, it was in vain. Fortunately, the little mermaid dove in just in time and saved him. After dragging him onto the shore, she curiously played with the prince's feet. Only when she had had enough fun did she notice how handsome he was. With a playful puff of her breath, she brought him back to consciousness, but he fainted again within seconds. The little mermaid gazed at his handsome face, growing fonder by the moment, but then 2 figures appeared on the shore. Startled, she quickly hid behind a rock. The newcomers were Princess Annie of the neighboring kingdom, who was also the prince's betrothed, and her old nursemaid. Annie was captivated by the young man's striking looks, not realizing this was her future husband. The nursemaid rolled her eyes at the princess's infatuation. At that moment, the prince briefly awoke, but just as he saw the princess's face, he fainted again. Meanwhile, the prince's 2 closest friends, Hans and Thors, had rushed over from afar. The nursemaid hurriedly urged the princess to leave at once. If anyone saw her with a half-naked man, rumors could easily ruin her upcoming wedding. But in the end, the nursemaid relented to the princess's request and signaled to the prince's 2 friends. They dashed forward just as the prince slowly regained his senses, insisting that a beautiful girl had saved him from the sea. Yet Thor swore they had only seen an old woman, leaving the prince baffled. He was certain it had been a young, lovely girl. Hans suggested that perhaps the prince had been bewitched by a mermaid.
Glaub mir doch, Hannes, es gibt sie wirklich. Draußen singen seelenlose Wasser nicht. Schöne junge Mädchen, also nur ein Traum. Ich möchte schon.
Hearing this, the little mermaid nearly jumped out to punch him, but at that moment her father's call reached her. When she returned, the Sea King gently asked what she had been doing outside. To his surprise, his daughter was unusually excited. She claimed to have rescued an especially handsome man from the sea, and even felt drawn to him. This shocked her elder sister into protest.
Die kriegen keine Luft unter Wasser. Stell dir bloß mal vor, sie essen Fisch.
The Sea King warned his daughter to be cautious of humans and not to play recklessly with such matters. But the little mermaid ignored him. Meanwhile, news of the prince's near drowning reached the king. Furious, the old king scolded his son, who was soon to inherit the throne and marry, yet still behaved so recklessly. He warned him to behave and prepare properly for the wedding, but the prince declared he could not marry yet, explaining that he had already fallen for someone else.
Oh, so plötzlich.
Sie war es. Sie hat mich gerettet. Schön wie ein Engel.
This left the king confused. After Hans and Thors recounted the incident, the king began to suspect his son's mind had gone astray, imagining an old crone as a young maiden. He immediately summoned doctors to examine him, but they found nothing wrong, leaving the prince more frustrated than ever. Meanwhile, the little mermaid, already enamored with the prince and deeply curious about human souls, faced an irresistible temptation. She even tried divining the prince's love with strings of sea pearls.
Liebt mich. Liebt mich nicht. Liebt mich.
She asked her sisters how she could transform her fishtail into legs, but her eldest sister sternly warned that love between merfolk and humans could never end well, and no one had ever achieved such a transformation. Yet the little mermaid mentioned the sea witch, Madra. At this, her sister grew alarmed, hastily trying to crush the dangerous idea. The little mermaid pretended she was only joking, easing her sister's worries. But once a thought takes root, how could it easily be abandoned? Eventually, she slipped away to the sea witch's domain. The sea witch did indeed have a potion to turn her tail into legs, but every step she took on land would bring her pain. But this potion comes at a price. She would lose her beautiful voice. Worse still, if the prince ever gave his love to another, she would dissolve into sea foam and drift forever across the eternal waves.